everybody. Welcome to We the Church podcast. I'm your host, Malachi Los. Before we get started, I want to go ahead and remind you guys that we have a link in our bio that gives you access to all of our content, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We also have access to We the Church merch. And also right now, an 80% off your first order with Fabletics. It's actually what I'm wearing right now. If I am chilling at the house or going to the gym, this is what I'm wearing. But regardless, 80% off when you sign up for the VIP membership. It's really easy. What I love to do, and don't tell anybody I told you this, but I like to take that 80% off and I like to buy all of my clothes in one order. And then I cancel that membership so I don't get charged for it. I'm not really sure if I'm allowed to tell you that or not, but hey, I just did. So anyway, back to the show. I've been reading this book right now. It's called Sell or Be Sold. It's by Grant Cardone. And basically the idea of the book is that everybody is currently selling something, right? Whether you're in the role of sales, whether you're actually, selling things, or whether or not you're just, living life, you're currently selling something. And this is what I mean by that. You're selling your ideas to your spouse, right? You're selling your personal beliefs to your friends. And then obviously in the corporate world, if you work in sales, right, then you're selling a solution to other people. I mean, even if you work in the customer service field, you're often selling the idea of customer satisfaction. Think about it. There's times where people come in, they're crazy mad, and then all of a sudden you sit down and you're having a conversation with them and you've sold them that they're actually satisfied. Anyway, moving on from that, what if I told you that every single day when you wake up, you're actually doing more than selling other people, but you're also selling yourself? This is a spiritual podcast, right? This is about being the church. It's about being a Christ follower. Well, you're selling yourself on something. Check this out. Imagine with me you stayed up late, right? The next morning is coming soon. On the calendar, it says gym. It's not a rest day. It's a day to grind. The alarm clock goes off. Are you going to the gym? A decision has to be made. You start tossing in bed, going back and forth. I know because I've been there, right? The inner war starts to rage inside of you. You're like, I don't know if I want to get up or not. I don't know. Then all of a sudden you tell yourself, I'm too tired. You just sold yourself on the idea of sleeping in. I went yesterday. You just sold yourself a feel-good message of complacency, right? Then you start tossing and turning, and every once in a while, you get that good feeling where you scream internally, get up! You sold yourself the idea that if you win the morning, you're going to win the day. You sold yourself the idea that there is a better benefit for you to get up and go to the gym than there is for you to sleep in. Statistically speaking, there's a statistic that claims this. They say that every adult has approximately 35,000 decisions every single day. And when you think about it from that perspective, that can get overwhelming. In fact, the high volume of choices that most people, especially in America, have with Instagram and all these different things floating around with social media is this thing called decision fatigue. It's a mental state of exhaustion, right? This fatigue is what happens when you are constantly trying to make decisions on things. The enemy hopes that it wears you out, right? Let's talk about this from a spiritual perspective. When you see yourself getting mentally exhausted and spiritually drained, this is often when people make poor decisions, right? In their moments of weakness, they fail. Thank God for God's grace, because it says in the moments of weakness, that's when his grace is sufficient. Well, the devil is trying to get into your head with a simple thought, an idea that sin is actually the solution to the problems you're facing. But sin only numbs. You see, sin's a medication. It temporarily hides the symptoms of the problems you're facing. For a moment, all is good. For a moment, there's some feel-good feeling. But once the effect of sin wears off, the problems still exist. So the question is, why turn there? Well, the devil's convinced you. See, Jesus is the real answer. He's the one that is healing for the hurting. He's the one that is true love for those that are longing. He's the one that brings peace to those that are anxious. And he's the answer for so much more. You see, in sales, a person tends to buy what they convince themselves will solve their problems. It's not about the salesperson sitting there and convincing them that they should buy this. They've convinced themselves that the things that they are going to purchase will solve their problems. Well, in the battle of our minds, we must allow ourselves to focus on what truly is going to fix our problems. Imagine this with me. Your mind is a sales floor. A decision has to be made. It's time to be sell. It's either time to sell or it's time to be sold. You're either selling or you're being sold. In our moments of weakness, we are confronted with two separate options. One is the flesh and the other is the spirit. One decision will lead us into a path of sin if we choose the path of flesh. The other one leads us into righteous living. Which one are you going to choose? I mean, I'd like to say that I think that it would be an easy answer. I'd love to say that, I'm going to choose the one that leads to righteous living. That's what I'm going to choose. But oftentimes, the road to righteousness is often harder than the road to sin, right? Sin gives you that instant gratification. It gives you an instant feeling of, oh, this was a good decision. But you see, sin doesn't fix the problem. Righteousness fixes the problem, while sin only temporarily numbs the pain. I know I've said it before, but we need to repeat that. Sin is only going to temporarily numb your pain. Notice, when I'm talking about this, I'm not saying that the devil is sitting around waiting to send a demon to possess you and make you do the wrong thing. Well, the devil can't do that with a Christian. But what he can do is he can offer you up an idea. He can tell you, hey, this idea right here, this sinful opportunity that I'm presenting you, that's going to do it. And your flesh does a great job because it's inherently sinful. Your flesh does an amazing job at telling you that that sin is what you want. That sin is what you crave. You see, the Bible teaches us in Galatians chapter 5 and verse 17 that the desires of the flesh are against the spirit, and the desires of the spirit are against the flesh. Our flesh craves sin. Our flesh desires sin because we live in a fallen world. But we must kill the desires of our flesh. How do we do that? We have to sell ourselves on the way of righteousness. Romans chapter 8 verse 13 says this, "For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if you live by the Spirit, you will put to death the deeds of the flesh, and you will live." So the answer is simple. You either sell yourself on righteousness, the way God wants you to live, the way that makes you in right standing with God, or you sell yourself on sin. And the enemy will sit back and he will laugh as you fall into the trap of your flesh. So how do we overcome these things? How do we overcome these thoughts that rage war inside of us? Well, we have to become top-tier objection handlers. In sales, an objection is basically an excuse. And it's an excuse that someone gives as to why they're not buying the thing you're trying to sell them. This is the way that the enemy works. The enemy will sit there and he will give you objections to make you believe that you are not 100% sold on Jesus being the answer to your problem. He'll get you to think that there's a better way. Maybe if you get drunk tonight, the anxiety will leave for a moment and you start to choose that instead of the peace that comes from God. Maybe there's some other things out there. But in sales, I have to make the benefits of the product outweigh the cost of the product. Anything good's going to cost you something, right? And the same is true spiritually. We have to convince ourselves and sell ourselves that the benefits of righteous living outweigh the momentary pleasures of sin. 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5 says, "Destroy every argument, every lofty opinion and idea that arises against the knowledge of Christ." You have to take your thoughts captive and force them to be obedient to Christ. You see, thoughts are going to arise. There's going to be thoughts in your mind that are not righteous thoughts, but it is our responsibility as Christians to take those thoughts and to correct it. The Bible calls this renewing your mind. You see, you have to picture yourself literally telling your thoughts and ideas, no. You have to correct it. You have to sell yourself the idea that righteousness is 100% without a shadow of a doubt a better choice than sin. When you do this consistently, the thoughts of sin will become less and less, and overcoming those thoughts will become more frequent in your life. Thank you so much for joining We the Church podcast. We'll see you guys next time.